Greetings and salutations. Thanks for watching the video and hanging out with me for a while. We're going to take a look at Ubuntu 20.04. The official release is coming up very soon on April the 23rd. I am recording this video on April the 14th, and I have been running Ubuntu on this machine for quite some time, well over a month, kind of watching it come together, and I've been using it as my daily driver for quite some time. They went into the beta version of the new release on April the 2nd, and at that point I did in-place upgrades on two other machines on my network, and ordinarily I don't do that. I wouldn't even bother with an in-place upgrade. I would just reinstall. This time around I decided to give it a shot, and it actually worked out pretty good. I'll tell you about how that went coming up a little bit later on. First, let's look at the OMG Ubuntu article here about the upcoming release. There's all kinds of good little pieces of information that we can kind of take out of here. We won't spend too much time here because I'm going to put a link in the description. Now, I don't know how long that link is going to work because this is an article that's updated right up until it's officially released, so it might only be there for those of you who are watching the video first week or two that it's out. So, as I said, the official release date is coming up on the 23rd, and this one is called Focal Fossa, focal being the center point of something, and a fossa is this cat-like thing that lives in Madagascar. So, I guess that's supposed to symbolize that it's lean and mean, and all that good stuff. I don't know what the thought process is when they come up with these names, I really don't. It is important to note that Ubuntu 20.04 is a long-term support release, which means that it will be supported until April of 2025. And that means if you install it now, that you won't have to do anything to your system at all until 2025 if you don't want to. Most people who use Ubuntu use the long-term support versions. Ubuntu has a new release every 6 months. The ones between the long-term support versions are interim releases, and the long-term support versions come out every 2 years. So most folks stick to those LTSs. That's why they're very important, and they always get a lot of press. Let's see, what else is there that we can talk about? Some milestones. We've already made it past the kernel freeze and the beta release, and we're waiting for the release candidate to come up here on April the 16th. Now, what that means is they put out a version about a week before the actual release date that they're not going to change anything about. They have done all of the features. It is set. This is how it's going to ship. Now we're just waiting for feedback to see if there are any bugs. Another thing to keep in mind is that the first point release for Ubuntu 20.04 will happen sometime in July, and at that time, when we get to 20.04.1 is when people who are currently running Ubuntu 19.10 or 18.04 will be prompted to upgrade. If you have set your system to look for the next long-term support release, which is usually how it comes shipped in the long-term support versions, then it will prompt you at that time. So by the time they come up with the 0.1 release of Ubuntu, they should have all of the major bugs completely stomped out. This is really stable, though. I mean, this is much stabler than, stabler, is that a word? More stable, I think that's what we need, than beta releases that I've run in the past. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal this time around unless something pops up we don't know about. There's not a lot of huge changes in this version of Ubuntu. What you're really looking at is a whole bunch of little incremental upgrades and stomping out bugs and performance. The performance is really great. There is a noticeable difference between Ubuntu 18.04 and 20.04. Now, I can't give you some metric to go by or numbers or anything. It's just the look and feel of it. It really does run very slick and very smooth. We're going to get faster boot times because they have changed the initram FS setup using a faster type of compression there. That's really important to boot times on Linux systems. We're going to get a flicker-free boot experience. which means that when your computer boots up, the screen's not going to flash at you and change aspect ratios and go crazy like it usually does. On some of my systems, it does really goofy stuff. But they have changed that, and now it is extremely slick. We get a new login page, and they have done a lot of work there. It's really kind of nice. We also get a new lock screen that comes on, and it kind of looks like the login page, but then you'll get whatever your background picture is that you've chosen. You'll get a blurred version of that. It's very classy looking. Really, a lot of really good work has gone into the UI on this version. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link in here to this article. Now, I don't know how long it'll be good for. If you're an early viewer of the video, then you might be able to see that, and you can go read for yourself. And later on, I don't know how long these particular articles stay up on OMG Ubuntu, to tell you the truth. So it might only be here for a week or two. Just a little warning there. So let's go ahead and jump down and take a look at the desktop itself. Now, as I said, I have been running this on this machine for quite some time. It's been my daily driver, and I have not had any major issues with it at all. It has been a very smooth experience, even though I actually installed this before they did all of the updates on the login screen and all that stuff. I was watching those come in and watching it change, and it went extremely well, which was nice. If the last time that you played around with Ubuntu, you were playing with Ubuntu 18.04 and you didn't bother to mess around with the Ubuntu releases in between there, like 19.04 and 19.10 and whatever else we've had since then, like 18.10. We've had three of them: 18.10, 19.04, and 19.10. They have done a lot of work here on the settings, and it's worth actually taking a look at, because there's just so much that has changed. I have it on the About screen here, which can tell you a lot of stuff about. We got this nice Wi-Fi page to work with. This is much more simplified than it has been in the past. It doesn't show every network that shows up on the system. It's the one you're connected to. We can go down through here and just look at a few things. Appearance. This is really useful, and this is new. So in the past, with the GNOME version of Ubuntu, which is the stock Ubuntu experience that you get from Canonical, you would have to install GNOME tweaks if you wanted to change anything with the theme. Now they have a quick and dirty way to do this on the appearance page, which is nice. So if you want a standard Yaru experience, then there it is in the middle. If you want to switch over to a dark theme, just one click does that. And if you want to switch to a light theme, that's it. That's nice to have. Also here you can resize the panel, launcher, dock, whatever the hell they call it these days. And you can also move that to the bottom if you want to. You can move it around. You can do all kinds of stuff. And everything else in here is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go through it. What's kind of nice is you can go through this applications here. Well, notifications is what we're talking about. And then you can set your applications if you don't want a particular one to give you a notification. Here's where you can select a background. That is different than it has been in the past. And it doesn't select a lock screen image anymore. It just uses the same one. Now, as you can see, those of you who have a really keen eye will note that right now this is the old version of the screen here, the backgrounds, and we're going to get all the new backgrounds a little closer to the release date. They will knock those out. So that's pretty much all there is to see about that. It is a normal GNOME experience, and you see what the theme looks like now. They've changed the color of the folders here in the Nautilus File Manager. As far as this is concerned, where I have my home folder and a trash can on the screen, that is now an extension that is installed, and that is something that GNOME does not do ordinarily by default these days, is have an active desktop. They discontinued that. some time back. Now, in Ubuntu 18.04, they held back the version of Nautilus, which is the file manager, which manages that, to make sure that they did have an active desktop experience. But this is different than you're probably used to. Like, for instance, I'm not going to be able to drag a file and put it out on the desktop. If I try to, I'm going to try and drag old BU out here and put it on the desktop. See, it'll just go back. It doesn't work that way anymore. If I wanted this to actually appear on the desktop, then what I would do is I would put it in the desktop folder over here, and now we would be able to see it. I'm not going to do it with that one. Let's go down to Work, and I'll just grab one of these things that I have here, like this picture right here. If I want this on the desktop, then what I have to do is go to Desktop, and now it will show up, and that's what it looks like. And it actually made a copy on desktop, as you can see. So that's the functionality now. Also, you don't have devices that you plug into the system showing up on the desktop anymore. So that has changed. Now, as far as the theming is concerned, I haven't touched anything on this system. I installed it and I have been running it pretty much the way it looked when I got it. So this is what your terminal looks like when it's running. So there you go. And there's a lot of processor activity because I'm capturing HD video. And that's what that looks like. So it is a very slick system. They have done a lot of good work here. Let's look at the software application, because they've put a lot of work into that as well. This, in past releases, really, as far as I'm concerned, kind of just sucked. So let's go to Software. Well, it says there's two of them there. There's Ubuntu Software and Software. I wonder if that's the same thing. That's what that looks like. Let's look at Ubuntu Software. I just now noticed that there's two of them. So if I put Software in here again, or Soft, let's see what I get when I get Ubuntu Software. Well, nothing opens. That's what I get. You get nothing. That's what you get when you click on Ubuntu Software. Oh, here it is. It said the software catalog is being downloaded. Okay. Is it? This may be something they're still working on, because I just now this minute noticed that there was two versions of that, Ubuntu Software and Software. Well, it kind of looks exactly the same. That's interesting. Why are there two? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go look at that. Anyway, you can play around with that and figure that out for yourself. This is not this was a fresh install too. That's something that they've done. Those two different versions of Ubuntu Software. So let's talk a little bit about the upgrade experience that I had. I'm going to put a link in the video to a video that Alan Pope posted. Alan Pope works for Canonical, and he's done some really interesting videos working with 2004, and he showed how to do an in-place upgrade from a terminal, and it was really cool, so I decided to go ahead and do it that way, and I'm going to link to his video in the description. Main thing that I want to point out about doing in-place upgrades, it seems to work pretty well, except that what I would advise very strongly that you do is go to Software and Updates. And here where it says Other Software, okay, you see here I have a couple of things. I have TeamViewer installed on this machine, so I have their repository hooked up to get updates on the latest TeamViewer, and I also run Google Chrome, so I have their repository hooked up. Uninstall the software that you have hooked up from other repositories like this or PPAs, and do that before you do the upgrade in place, because what it's going to do is it's going to probably disable those anyway, and make sure that you come back here and double check, because when I did it, what it did was it took all of the repositories for Ubuntu 18.04 and it moved them to this list. So I had this really long list of repositories that I didn't need. You should really only have canonical partners on here if you don't have any extra repositories hooked up from PPAs or whatnot. Now, what's nice about this Ubuntu for me is that this is the first time that I have installed Ubuntu and not had to hook up one PPA to get all the software I needed. It is in the repositories. So everything that I use, including the timeshift utility, is now in the Ubuntu repositories, and I don't have to worry about that, hooking up PPAs to the system. However, I did have these two, and on one of the machines when I first attempted to do this, that kind of gave me some heartburn because I had to go back and fix this sources list. I was able to fix it, but it was kind of a head scratcher for a few minutes just trying to figure out what was going on. So uninstall the software, then remove that first, then do your upgrade, and then put the stuff back. That would be the way to go. Okay, I think these settings still think that I want that light theme. Or maybe it got stuck. Lord have mercy. Did I mess it up? I want the standard, please. Thank you. Maybe I need to reboot or something. Who knows? So the upgrade experience went rather well. Like I said, a link to that video will be posted, and that will be easy to do. Now, what I would like to do is kind of show you my Ubuntu automatic install script that I have for every version. And yes, I have actually put this up on the web page. So you can go to EzeeLinux.com and go to Bash scripts, and then if you get the Bash script collection, the Easy Linux Bash script collection, it's there. I'm trying to think if I want to show it here. No, I don't want to put it in the terminal, so let's not do that. Let's open up the text editor. That's what we need. Open up the little text editor, and now we will go get the script, and I will show you the script. Trying to figure out in my head whether I have covered everything I want to before I got to this point, and it's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. So let's go to, no, don't go to downloads, go to documents. Thank you. I'll go into scripts, and we're going to look at the Ubuntu 2004 install script. And there's a couple of notes that I wanted to make in here to tell you guys about. So this is pretty much the way I've always done it. We install a great deal of software. I always install GDebi because I prefer to use GDebi on a command line to install deb packages. And I have quite a few programs that come in deb packages that I like to install. So we have to make sure we have GDebi first, then we install some other software. This list contains pretty much everything I need in addition to the distribution, what they give, and that's nice now that I can install just most of everything without having to hook up a bunch of PPAs. And then local packages I keep in downloads packages. You guys just saw that when I clicked on that directory. This is a bunch of commands here that go through those packages and install them using GDebi. Yes, I know that you can do it other ways, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't bother to point that out in the comments. I know that you can use apt to install deb packages. You can use dpkg-i. I like GDebi. So this is a part here where it goes through and it gets rid of Firefox, and then it installs Google Chrome because I don't use Firefox and I prefer Google Chrome. Now, one of the things I did notice is when I did the upgrades on the other machine, it put Firefox back even though I had uninstalled it. So if you're like me and you don't want Firefox on the system, you're going to have to go back and do that again when you're done. Now here's something pretty cool. Those of you who have watched my videos for quite some time will know that I always install this little package called MP3 Gain, and lately I've been getting it from Martin Wimpress. He is the head desktop developer for Canonical, but for a long time, even before he took that lofty position, he had been maintaining this little piece of software that I like an awful lot, and I've been getting it from him. This time around, I was able to install it from a snap package, which made it super easy. It was just like, oh, I can put that in the script here and it's no big deal. Now here's one of the downfalls that I found with this particular version of Ubuntu, and that is that there's I don't know whether it's a bug or it's just a new setting they've added since Ubuntu 1904, and every version since then I have had to go through and put this bunch of gobbledygook in here, which is basically adding a line to a configuration file that tells the system not to turn off the sound card. Because what it will do is, if there's a delay, like let's say you're watching a video, the video's over, there are no sound playing, then it'll turn that card off. And what will happen is you'll get all these pops and clicks in your audio the next time that you click on something or when something ends. And it's very frustrating and annoying, especially if you're listening with headphones or if you have a really nice set of speakers hooked up to your system. So what this does is it just basically undoes that, and it says, no, you leave that on, and it turns that off. I will put this in the description to the video, this particular string of text, and you can copy and paste it and get a note of it for yourself, or download this script, like I said before, from the bash scripts page at EzeeLinux.com. And the last thing that I do is I go ahead and change these permissions to make sure that I can write to CDs and DVDs. I actually do write to CDs once in a great while when I'm doing audio projects and things like that, and this needs to work. And in Ubuntu 1804 there was an issue that you'd put a disk in the machine and it wouldn't write it. It would just sit there and crunch and crunch and crunch, and it would never work, and it turned out to be a permissions issue. And so you change these permissions and it works fine. I don't know if you need to do this or not anymore. I just do it automatically to make sure it works, so I don't have to deal with the headache down the line. Now, I know for a fact that you have to do this, because when I first installed this alpha version of, or it wasn't even alpha then, it was daily build on this machine, I checked to make sure that I did need that. I didn't install that immediately and let it run for a couple days, and it went to sleep and it woke up, and when it woke up is when it started doing that thing. Every time a sound would play, you'd get a big pop and a click. And so that absolutely has to be put in on some machines. Maybe not yours, but on my old hardware, definitely it has to be done. So that's my install script. It has gotten much, much simpler over the last couple of years since Ubuntu 1804. So I want to thank the folks at Canonical for doing such a fantastic job. I think this is one of the best versions of Ubuntu that I've ever seen, honestly. This is as good as anything that I've ever used in the past, and head and shoulders above what we've had before, like Ubuntu 14.04. There are people out there who have not looked at Ubuntu in many years, and they don't know how much it has changed and how much effort has been put into it. And so they're going by really old information. The last time that they tried it was like Ubuntu version 8 or something like that, which definitely had issues. Now, my favorite version of Ubuntu in history is Ubuntu 10.10, because that was one of the first that just worked out of the box really well. That was Maverick Meerkat. So this is my new favorite after Maverick Meerkat, is Ubuntu 20.04. It's slick, it works well, and it's going to be a big improvement over what you got running now. Before we wrap up the video, I think it's important to say that if you're happy with what you've got running, you've got plenty of time to make up your mind if you actually want to upgrade. So if you're running Ubuntu 18.04, you got another 3 years of support. It just happens to be that the Canonical folks do their long-term support releases every 2 years, and the support cycles do overlap by quite a bit. So there's no rush. You don't have to do that, because every time I do one of these videos, somebody comes along and says, do I have to upgrade? No, you don't. Now, you're going to have to do something if you're running Ubuntu 19.10, because, well, that's going to be gone here probably in August, I think, is when the release cycle on that is over, the support cycle, rather. Those particular versions are good for about 9 months, and that's it. Interim releases of Ubuntu. So thank you, everyone, for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you for all the great feedback I've gotten lately. It's very much welcome. A lot of folks have contacted me asking me to help them get started with Linux, or they have started and they're having an issue with something, and seems like that around the world we're all kind of locked down in this weird time, and a lot of folks are taking that time to learn more about Linux, which is a wonderful thing, and I'm glad I'm here to help. So do feel free to send your feedback. If you really want to get my attention, go to EzeeLinux.com and do that through the webpage, okay? Comments here and in other places, I read most of the comments, I think 99.9% of them, but sometimes stuff does slip through, and when it does, some folks' questions go unanswered. So if you really want to get my attention, just send me a message through the webpage. Also, if you want to join our community at EzeeTalk, you can check that out. Just go to EzeeLinux.com and click on EzeeTalk. That's a forum which is fast, free, and very secure. We actually run that from the server on down. It's not one of those services that some large company can screw up or take away from us. And that's kind of a fun little thing we got going on. And if you're a Facebook user, check us out on Facebook at EzeeLinux. You see the address in front of you. I don't need to quote that to you now, do I? Either way, check it out and give us a like if you're there, because that helps a lot. Your likes and your subscriptions, they help more than anything else, especially the subscriptions right now, because we're getting ready to switch over to being a real YouTube channel, because I guess you have to have at least 100,000 subscribers to be considered a real YouTube channel. We're almost there, man. A couple more months, I think we're going to hit that goal, and that's pretty cool. I don't know what's going to happen when we reach 100,000 subscribers. I guess we all turn into pumpkins. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody. We'll do it again soon.